June 14th, 1991. Heard a noise in the other part of my house, and I thought my daughter had gotten up and gotten sick. So I said her name. Two very large men entered my room with a handgun and a shotgun. The guy with the handgun comes around my husband's side. The guy with the shotgun comes around mine. They pull my husband out of bed, and they put him on the floor, and they put the handgun in his mouth. Then they pull me out of bed and put me face down, hands up, and I have the shotgun to the back of my head. Now we have 4 guys in the house. 2 stay with us, 2 go get my 17-year-old daughter. She stands on the bed, and he makes her strip her clothes off. And then he puts the shotgun in her mouth, and he tells me that he's going to blow her effing head off. Oh my God, did they believe he has a safe. It's about getting the father to talk. Everything is about pushing on the father. Her dad's watching everything. They have him watching. He's on his knees. And then finally the line goes, we're going to rape your wife and your daughter, and we're going to make you watch. Eventually, he rapes her with the barrel of the shotgun. Don't have money in a safe. That's what they want. And that's what they keep asking us over and over and over again. We never left the bedroom. So he's watching his daughter raped with a shotgun, and he began to stand up. And as he stood up, the guy he already raped her with a gun, came up behind him with that shotgun and hit him in the back of the head. And the shotgun went off in my bathroom floor. They struggled, and then struggled into the closet. My husband began to win, and they shot him in the back. Heard a muffled shot, heard the thud hit the floor, and knew it was him. Still bent on raping Roxy. And let's find that safe. 48 minutes. We've said it over and over and over, and they still believe there's a safe. Car comes up on the road. That's what made the difference. And they all looked at this car on the road and said, let's get out of here. And he's laying on my tennis shoes. And his eyes are open. And I started trying to feel for a heartbeat. I don't know how the God's green earth anybody thinks you're supposed to feel for a heartbeat, but all you can feel is your own coming out of your chest. And he breathed 3 breaths, and he died in Roxy's arms. Total most appropriate place for the man to die. He died trying to save his daughter.
My daughter, Christy Sue Pina, was murdered back in February the 8th of 1990. Christy was kidnapped in Salinas. She was strangled, stabbed, raped, sodomized. They threw her nude body in an artichoke field in Castroville. And February the 8th is when they found her in a field in Castroville. People were cutting artichokes, and this man tripped on her. The man had a heart attack, and he survived. Thank God for that one. Ever since then, my life changed, which changed a lot of family members' lives.
We last heard from Lorraine on Friday, February 5th, and then we didn't hear from Lorraine. I was supposed to get a call from Lorraine Friday evening, and all I would get was a busy signal. And then nobody heard from Lorraine Saturday. Nobody heard from Lorraine Sunday. She didn't show up to work for 2 days. So my daughter Bernice and my oldest daughter went to the apartment house and had the landlord open the door when she didn't respond to the door knocking. And they found her body. My daughter had been severely tortured, beat, stabbed, strangled, and they tried to burn the apartment house down. They punctured a gas line, and somehow the fire just died.
8 minutes later, the sheriff's office were here, and the first thing the sheriff said was, I said, I don't know where they went. And he said, I don't want to know that. Where's your husband? That was the greatest line said to me. He wanted to know where my husband was.
The detective went to my home, and they wanted DNA from my oldest daughter and from me, because I knew a lot of things about the case. I was giving them information.
I was the #1 suspect. when this happened. I was brought in, they started questioning me. I mean, like I was the one that did this.
The first question came, did we do it? You know, did we do it? And I had no idea they were going there. And they did it really diplomatically, you know. Well, you have insurance, right? I said, yeah, I think I have $60,000 insurance. Jeez, I had $10,000 insurance. I didn't have 60. I had just barely enough to bury this guy.
So they said she must be the murderer. They must have murdered Lorraine themselves, me and my oldest daughter.
I got so frustrated. I got up. Got up, walking out. Sit down. No. I don't have to sit here and take this. I said, you know what? I'm going to walk out this door.
We were not reacting the way they thought we should react. Still not crying, neither one of us. Neither one of us cried at all. It bothered everybody, my way of reacting. And it still does.
When you're first notified that a loved one has been killed, there's such a sense of disbelief. It's like death. It's like the end of something. Darkness. I wasn't sure of the nightmare that was coming upon us.
Your mind ain't where it's supposed to be to begin with. You got all these things going through your head. They ask you questions that are impossible. You know the guy, you this, yeah. No, you don't.
It became too big. It was in the newspaper every day. It was, oh my God, it was 22 months worth of trials, almost 2 years. So it just became way too big.
Negotiations started, and the next thing I hear is that he's going to be charged for manslaughter. And I'm like, manslaughter? That means that he's going to be out possibly 3.5 years for.
I've been dealing with this for 27 years, and sometimes it's slow. We've come a long ways in the last couple of years, year and a half or two. We've come a long way. When they got him, the person that did this to my daughter is 3 hours from the border. He started fighting extradition, coming up here. He lost all 4 or 5 appeals he's lost.
And so we stayed there, we heard everything. I asked questions, and I was terrified. I mean, to kill somebody and they just get 3.5 years of prison time for that is just not enough. I thought people went to prison for life.
Because I wasn't even allowed in the courtroom. I had to sit in the hallway because I was a witness. So even during the penalty phase of the trial, they still held me out because guess why? Too strong a victim. I was going to influence the court. So the strength that I had got used against me.
No one wants to be a victim of a crime. And so when they come to the table after becoming a victim, or a loved one has become a victim of a crime, most of the time they do not have any knowledge at all of the criminal justice system. They don't know how it works. They may think that, they get to sit at the table with the attorneys and the defendant and discuss the case, and that doesn't happen here.
I didn't let them forget Lorraine. They didn't put Lorraine's binder in the basement and gather dust. It had to be brought out every now and then, and they were having to take a look at it.
Not only for my daughter, but for all of us. We all need closure in our cases.
Months later, they would constantly walk up and touch me it's always touching you on the leg going, you will fall apart, right? Because that's what they thought they'd do. They will write me in a letter. If that was my mother, she'd have been a mess falling apart. I'm sorry, I don't think this is real at all. I think you're lying to us. And it wasn't pretty what happened to Roxy. No, Roxy was a mess. I tried to get her counseling. She wouldn't continue to go.
My grandson growing up, number one, walking to school that first day, coming out from his, schoolroom, with some paper in his hand, when he had to write about his mom, and my grandson was lost. And he says, who do I write about? Those things. I don't think it's about me, and it's not about my children, it's about my grandson.
She wouldn't do what she needed to do to talk this out, to do whatever. She was just going to bury it, and it didn't work. Nice thought. Didn't work. How many people said that line to me? Why don't you just put this behind you? And I say, really? Where is that slot? Show me where that slot is.
You're always blaming, oh, nobody's doing nothing about it. Well, there I go with one of my sayings. You want it solved? Get involved. Because if you don't care, nobody else is going to care.
I had to know what was happening. It was dry. You're standing there looking, and they have a little window in there so you can see somebody sitting on the stand. But you can't tell what they're saying. You have no idea what's going on, no idea what's being said. As I say, the game was played without me. What happens in that room is they take your power away from you. And I never really understood that until the cop on my case told me when I went to the first time there was a preliminary hearing. He said to me, look at him, Cheryl. I want you to look at him. And they brought me out and sat me in the stand. And all four of the guys, because the girl was juvenile, all four of the guys sat in front of me. District Attorney Gary Meyer asked me a question, and his question was, did you have a safe? I said, I want you to ask me that question. I'm so angry that they still believe I had a safe. And when I answered that question, I looked at every single one of them, and every single one of them looked down. I took my power back in that room. That's why I love restorative justice.
I think restorative justice is, we're trying to convince these kids to be better people.
For a few years, I just sat there, learned, trying to listen. What is restorative justice? Is this about forgiving someone that's inflicted harm on you?
When I've met with restorative justice, there's a part where they want to assist victims and suspects or defendants in trying to resolve an issue, having them meet, and this is at that level. It could be a petty crime, a misdemeanor, where maybe they could resolve it without having to go to court. And the bigger issues, it could be a homicide where the person is in prison, but either the victim or the victim's family, if it's a homicide, it would be the victim's family, where they want to meet with that person and ask questions about what happened during the crime, or why did they do it, that sort of thing.
And my interest is in working with youth. And so let's repair the youth. Even if they've caused harm, how can we help the youth not become hardened criminals and go to prison? And so healing them.
I had gotten invited to do a talk like 3 months after my husband was murdered. And I went in and I said, you know what, let me throw this at the end. My talk is consequences for your actions. I got pregnant, consequence for your action. There's always something that's going to happen from there. I threw the murder in. And oh my God, I watched the power of what that did. So I started continuing to talk.
I started out by talking at the juvenile hall. Get over there and I talk to them, talk to the boys, and I've talked to the girls too at the same time. I tell them about Christy, I tell them about different things. I let them ask questions. They're sorry that it happened. And I says, why? They apologize. We're sorry that you have to go through what you're going through. Even though we didn't know her, but she's our daughter too. Whenever a child like this, it happens to a child like this, she's everybody's daughter.
Everything around us is concentrating on, well, let's repair the damage. Let's do this and let's do that. But the victims, we also need healing. Through restorative justice, going in, talking to the youth, even going into prisons, that is also healing us. I heard yesterday it's like medicine. Restorative justice is like medicine. It's going to heal all the way around.
And what we know about post-traumatic stress syndrome and how to get over it is the more times you tell the story, the more you heal.
Justice is hard. I mean, it's going to come down like a hammer on you. You don't need to be wasting your life in a place like this. And then I tell them, once you get in that gate, your life is going to change for the rest of your life. And there's no coming back from that. And they'll ask him which way, and then I tell them, hey, well, you know what? You might be tough dog out here, but when you get in there, you'll be the puppy. But they know what I mean. They know what I'm talking about.
Well, I can tell kids all day long I don't hate them and I forgive them. I have to tell them I don't hate them and forgive them. And then I learned about the victim-offender mediation, that you meet together. Somebody gets the victim ready, somebody gets the offender ready. And I got to do that. I got to do the first in California Youth Authority's history with the girl in my crime. And that's exactly what I went and did. I went and told her I don't hate you and I forgive you.
To be able to express what this person did to you and to have that power to be able to state, well, this is what I feel the punishment should be, and judge, this is how it affected me, this is how it affected my family.
Some of these survivors start to thrive instead of simply survive day by day, was to get up in front of an audience of young people and simply, perhaps for the first time through, just cry. And we encourage them to do that. If that's the emotion that comes up the first time you do this, if you can't get the words out, it's fine. Maybe the young people need to hear that.
Restorative justice heals people in understanding the frustrations, dealing with what was dealt to them, such as the hurt, learning how to heal, and then helping others and healing others as well.
Why did they do this? And they owe me that explanation, not the state of California. And nowhere in the system do I get to do that. Nowhere. But restorative justice gives you that. And you can do that anywhere in the process of the crime. For me, it became afterwards, because, Lord, nobody was going to let me do that during the crime. But it became very powerful for me to do this.
So we have support groups, and I have found that that's a really big deal. And as you say, you know, maybe husband, maybe their friends don't really want to hear about this. It happens. Maybe their children don't want to hear about it. And so to have an opportunity to come to a support group and be heard by others is really important.
We're all connecting. You know, we all call each other. We all keep in touch, how everybody's doing, and that's the way it is. That's how we maintain our sanity. Because otherwise, it's hard doing it on your own.
He gave me the apology of a lifetime. Took total responsibility for my husband's murder, even though he never pulled the trigger. He escalated the crime. He got so bent on raping Roxy that he escalated what happened in that room. And he took total responsibility for the murder, which was way beyond anything I expected out of him. And I hugged him when I left. And he's done what he's supposed to do in there.
Meanwhile, I was feeling these chest pains, just massive chest pains. They said I had probably had a couple of heart attacks. Some people call that broken heart syndrome. My heart still works that way, but no healing like there is giving back. My experience in talking to the youth came about accidentally, and then once I got into it, the rewards, you know, you walk in, you don't know what to expect, but you know you're there for a purpose.
And they all came and they shook my hand and said they thanked me. They were really sincere. And when I walked out that door again, it's like when I come here and I'm having a good time with her, like I'm walking on a cloud. I feel like the weight. I felt like I accomplished something.
Every time I would talk about this, the whole pain was just so huge. And then you learn that, you know, you're telling your story, you're telling people how you feel. And then you leave there and you're like, my daughter's going to make a difference.
They're sincere, they get teary-eyed. When they talk, you hear that crack in their voice, and then you know that we're doing what we went there to do.
You know, have that written above your head. Let us never forget. There's a point in that in life. You never want to go back there.